You didn't think that after a mere 20 minutes that I was done talking about Evangelion, did you? No, because Evangelion is much too complicated for that, and I haven't even gotten to the second part of the argument about the end of the original series. It is true that the ending of the original series went to shit because of a complete lack of production funds, and what we got wasn't very satisfying. But what if they had the money? What if Anno and his team had the funds to be able to tell the story they wanted to tell? What if they had a production value that was greater than that of the original series? Such a thing might be a true masterpiece, something that would pierce the heavens with its awesomeness, and forever end the conversation about what the ending of Evangelion was all about, because it would make true and absolute sense. Shame that such a thing will never come to pass. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, my name is Arcada, and welcome to Glass Reflection. Today, the dual theatrical release of the Evangelion films, Death and Rebirth, and the End of Evangelion. You ready? Let's jam. Okay, quick recap of Evangelion for those who have forgotten. Mysterious beings known as angels have come to destroy the entirety of the human race. The humans create giant mecha to combat the angels that can only be piloted by 14-year-old children for some unknown reason, those children being Shinji, Asuka, and Rei. And they all battle the angels for 25 episodes while slowly slipping into madness, as all of them, along with basically everybody else in the entire cast, is either emotionally broken or mentally insane. Take your pick. For more details, check out my review of the series. For this is not about the series, but rather the two films that have spawned since the show's release. Though at this point some people may have asked, 2 films? Wasn't there only the one? And if you did think that, you would be wrong, though with good reason, because the first one really isn't much to talk about. Death and Rebirth isn't so much a standalone film as it is a build-up to the next film, End of Evangelion. The majority of the thing is more or less just one big long recap episode. You do know what a recap episode is, right? Gurren Lagann had one. Hell, Wolf's Rain had an entire disc dedicated to just 4 episodes of entirely recap. Recap episodes serve 2 purposes. 1, as a reminder to the audience what has come before, and 2, a nice way out of actually having to animate more stuff when production funds run low. But in this reviewer's opinion, recap episodes are a complete waste of time. Mainly because they are only recapping something which you should have already watched recently, in this case the Evangelion series. Now you could be like, well, since it covers everything that's in the show in a much shorter amount of time, wouldn't it make a lot more sense just to watch this movie instead of watching the show? That's the main problem though, because as a replacement for the original series, Death and Rebirth does an extremely horrible job. It tries to combine 24 episodes, which, if you're counting, is about 8 hours of content, into a film that's just over an hour long. That's a lot that got cut out. For example, most of the character development over the course of the series is gone, replaced by sectioned off segments focused on individual characters, while unfortunately not going as deep into said characters as the show did. Now, there are some new scenes involving the characters practicing musical instruments for some reason, but for the most part those scenes are superfluous and do nothing in terms of either plot and or character development. Not only that, but the majority of the time, they ripped scenes and actual footage from the original show. And while yes, some of the scenes were redrawn, the majority of the film is just reused footage to make me ask, why don't you just watch the show? And I haven't even gotten to the second half of this film, because its title, Death and Rebirth, is more than just a fancy name. The name itself is actually a combination of the film's 2 parts. The recap section, Death, clocking in at about an hour and 10 minutes, and then the remaining half hour, and this is golden, the remaining half hour, titled Rebirth, is the first 30 minutes of the film End of Evangelion. Which, chances are, you are going to be watching right after this. So what is the point? And if that wasn't enough, you want to know how they signal the change between Death and Rebirth? This happens. A 5-minute intermission in the middle of the film. Like, I really wish I was making this up. They have an intermission in the middle of a film. Now, films have had intermissions before, but you don't actually have it in the film. You stop the film and let the people have the intermission before returning back to the continued film. If you're watching this on DVD, there is a 5-minute scene in the middle of it saying intermission. It's just... Okay, I'm done. I'm done with that. So let's recap. We have the final 2 episodes of Evangelion that for a general audience makes absolutely no sense, and the production value is shit. And then we have an hour and 40-minute film that is 3/4 recap and 1/4 preview. I am seriously at my limits here. But we're not done yet. There's still one more thing to talk about. The End of Evangelion is less of a film and more of 2 episodes that are tied together. They're even divided up as such. It was devised and created as a direct response to the fans of the original series who really weren't too happy with the massive departure in tone that the final 2 episodes of the original series had with the rest of it. And as such, the film begins right where we left off, assuming you retcon the last 2 episodes.
So fucked up.
Right, because this is exactly where we left off. Okay, so we end up going into End of Evangelion with a bunch of questions. Does Asuka become a complete badass? Does Shinji stop being a pussy? Do we finally get to find out the truth about the Evas?
Ritsuko Akagi. The truth is...
But most importantly, the biggest question of all, does this film give the series a proper ending? Something like a sense of closure? Okay, the ending of this film is set out in a way that if you are the kind of person that needs everything that's going on, all the explanations to be basically handed to you, then you're probably not going to like it. And you might not figure out exactly what's going on. Though granted, the film does make it rather hard at some points. For the most part, you can piece everything together if you're paying attention, but there are a few sections that will throw you for a loop. Sections like this one, where for whatever reason, all animation is forgotten and we instead get these live action shots from Japan. Most of the explanations for these scenes, as well as even some of the animated scenes following them, are cryptic, leaving you to decipher whatever meaning they have on your own, and conclusions can differ from one person to another. And then there's the finale, the very literal end to the end of Evangelion. Does it give you a sense of closure? Do you feel satisfied with this ending? Perhaps. Then again, maybe not. I think it is unlikely that someone would walk away from this film in awe of its splendor like a big blockbuster film. But really though, I kind of think that was the point. The film does not have a classic happily ever after ending, and it's probably better this way. It makes it more memorable. It allows you to think about it and discuss it for months on end after the fact, or in this case, years after the fact, and then still figure out something new that you've never learned before. So it's this combination of beautiful action and animation in the first half that makes up this film and has it be more of a borderline art piece by the end of it, rather than a piece of entertainment for the mass consumption by its fans. And this might tick some people off, but I think we're better than that. Well, for the most part anyways. Which now leaves me at the final verdict. For Death and Rebirth, honestly, I'm not even gonna bother giving it a rating, as quite honestly, there was no reason for you to ever watch it in your life. The first half of it is unorganized recap clips, and the second half is just the beginning of the next film, so really, why bother? Death and Rebirth gets a straight out f*** it rating from me. The End of Evangelion, on the other hand, is a very different beast, as it takes on the task of being a replacement for the final 2 dismal episodes of the original series. It starts out heavy with the mass-produced action and excitement that the Evangelion series is popular for, and then it swings into the deep psychological mindfuck conclusion that Evangelion is known for. It might not be the satisfying conclusion that fans were hoping for it to be, but it does a hell of a lot better job than the series ever did. So after carefully averaging the scores given for the categories of story, characters, animation, sound, and my own personal enjoyment, taking that and bypassing its AT field, killing it dead, and having it explode into a giant symbolic cross, has me awarding End of Evangelion with a score of 8.42 out of 10, and a continuing rating of Certified Frosty, as it should be viewed directly following the original show. At the time of this video, End of Evangelion is not available for legal streaming, and although it was once available from Manga Entertainment on DVD in the States, it has since gone out of print. This is one of those problems where not every entry in a franchise gets licensed by the same company, as the original series was owned by ADV before getting transferred to Section 23 Films after ADV went under. So yeah, End of Evangelion might be a little hard to find, though it is totally worth it if you can. As for some alternate anime recommendations besides the existing ones that I gave for the Evangelion series, I can give you Serial Experiments Lain as a pinnacle example of an anime that you really need to think about and interpret, as well as Eureka 7 as another mech show with similar elements, though nowhere near the same amount of mindfuckery. The last question that remains, though, is what makes End of Evangelion different from the original ending? They are both in many ways nonsensical. They require you to think and are filled with symbolic imagery and themes. But this film seems more thought out, better structured, better planned. But it's an ending that I was happy with, and I don't think I'll need anything else. Well, maybe a little more would be nice, but I'll save that for another time. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, thank you for watching. And until next time, stay frosty.
All I want